Okay, what happens May 25th, 2018? Why is that a day special? Yeah, I provide answers. Well, that's when the new law called GDPR starts to take effect. That's when you can be penalized for the GDPR breaches. So, what are GDPR? Anyone here not familiar with what the General Data Protection Regulation? Anyone here heard of it before? Okay, yeah. Good, at least you've heard of it. May 25th, 2018. That's exactly 14 months away, pretty much. So, yeah. Like I will just say, it's big. It's huge, actually. It's a lot of changes you need to take into account. Things that you haven't actually needed to consider that much before are actually being brought up. So, don't get me wrong, I really like the idea that data privacy and your personal integrity should be a human right. Each human born should have a right to protect their own integrity. That's a great thing. The implications of the GDPR, however, well, left a few things to desire. A couple of years ago, I made the horrible mistake of reaching up my hand at a work meeting and say, I know a few things about security. You should never do that in corporate business, say that you know a few things. A couple of weeks later, I was named the Chief Security Officer. And then came GDPR down the lap, yup! And they say, okay, you need a compliance officer. Yeah, okay, of course, that should be me, so yeah. By signing that document, my CEO told me that you shouldn't feel sad. Your life is not over for that. Just the fun parts that brings you joy. So, okay. Anyway. Did you... anyone notice this one? What happened here? Swedish National Health Insurance Authority made it that their personal pages displayed another person's medical information. So when I logged in, I got another person. Okay, now with our nice and cozy EU directive laws called Persondatalagen here in Sweden, they don't need to worry that much about this one. It's embarrassing, but that's it. With the GDPR, however, we can see some fun things. People usually say, why am I showing Datainspektionens pages? Because people don't believe me when I actually say what will happen. They say, it can't be that way. It's impossible. It would bankrupt a lot of companies. And the truth is, yes, it will bankrupt a lot of companies, and that's what we need to take into account. If you look at this one, they tend to tell things about things that are particularly sensitive when it comes to personal information. People's health care, information regarding people's health care, are particularly sensitive. That's written into the law directly. These things are taken seriously. Well, what's serious according to GDPR? We should call this. Yeah.
You zoom in?
Yes. So, according to GDPR, we have these things called what they call serious, and let's find that again. Sorry. Okay. So a serious offense, according to GDPR, and this is the law directly, the text is directly. It's 20 million euro, or 4% of your global turnover. Your total global turnover. So if you're part of a bigger company, or if you're a subsidiary, it's the mother company's total annual global turnover that measured. So which one of these are the highest? The Swedish National Insurance Agency have a huge turnover, insane turnover, even more than the 20 million euros, so they would pay through the nose if GDPR were in effect at this time. One simple small mistake that actually went down to one database administrator pushing in a single row into the identity field, so it got a misfit gap in identities. It's a pretty common mistake. If we have ever fooled around in Excel sheets, we all know we've done that now and then and messed things up. Easy to do. Huge consequences, but not today. So, if this were to happen after May 20th, people could sue the national insurance company for a lot of money. Would they? Yeah, of course we would. Who wouldn't? I would want to have this money. So, can you do stuff about the GDPR? People say you shouldn't sell stuff through fear. And, well, yeah, that's true partly. But I like scaring people, so I'm the sinister part. I'm not going to talk a lot about the GDPR because it's a huge thing. So I usually show this one for describing the GDPR. It's blind men trying to describe an elephant. Well, it depends apart on what part you're looking at. From the cloud perspective anyway, we're in luck because the Germans have helped us a lot. When it comes to GDPR and all the complexity about the rules and regulations, how can we prepare here in Sweden for a law that has not been tried in practice in the courts yet? Well, it all knows that laws has to run through a few times through the courts before you get the finalized decision on what actually gives with the law. But the Germans have had Bundesschutzgesetz for a long time. That's actually privacy laws that the GDPR stems a lot from it. The Germans have practiced this a lot before. And the Germans were actually nice enough to give us a complete compliance catalog if you run a cloud. How many of in here run their own cloud? Okay, just us. That's good. How many in here buy services from the cloud? Then you're in real luck, because this one concerns you a lot. This one is direct requirements set by the Germans. So this is both why I love and hate the Germans at the same time. I love the Germans because they're insanely clear. They've tried this in court, so it's been through the European courts. So when it comes to the technical demands for concerning GDPR and providing a cloud, they've said these are the standards you have to follow. These are the standards we set and have deemed good enough. So they're good for a customer. So you should look for this called Euro certification. So you should look for the ES Cloud label from all your providers and demand that. Because that's a really, really good, crazy good certification. Not these ridiculous pledges that you see circling around. Oh, I promise to follow the law. Yeah, it's the law, you you need to follow it or you will be. So, this one actually sets really high demands on an independent auditor coming and doing a good audit. And it has really good demands on the specific competence of the auditors themselves, on what are required for them. Back to the Germans. If you're going to do something, you're going to do it well, you're going to do it properly, you're going to do it methodically. So some stereotypes are actually true in Europe. They give us this one, and it's great because it's clear. It's horrible because, yes, what work it is. So this is what I've been spending my free time for the last 3 years doing. So, for the other cloud providers, hosting providers, something, if you haven't been into this a bit, well, it's a bit tricky because you better start running because it's 14 months left. This one takes a while to finish. But like I said, as a cloud provider, I'm happy enough because this one actually does something clear. And it helps you really much if you're going to buy something. Because you go to your cloud provider and say, okay, I'm going to use your cloud for personal information within Europe. I don't want to find myself on the working end of a 200 million krona fine or something like that. Because I bet that most of your companies hasn't put away a fund for a couple of billion kronor for fines for GDPR. I would guess that. I actually asked my CEO and the owner of the company how much he has funded for GDPR, and well, not that much, let me tell you that one. Easy enough, I have an insurance by selling his kids to Russia, so that's good enough. Anyway, this one helps customers a lot, but it's tricky. I want to point out a few things that's easily overlooked within the GDPR. Like I said, on the elephant part, I'm the techie part, really techie part. If you think about when you enter a data center, when you enter your servers, when you go down where you actually keep your servers, most of you, hopefully every one of you, has some sort of access rights to it. Usually entering the physical hardware of a cloud today requires access cards, PIN codes, fingerprints, and a lot more. In our case, you have to pass through security, you have to pass through multiple airlocks to get in there. The thing is, there is one thing today that's common among lots of companies, and it's called local area networking. How many of you can say and rest assured that 100% of all the internal traffic is fully encrypted? Up to industry best practice standard?
None.
No, none.
Yeah.
So these ones need to be locked in the same way as the server infrastructures, or you will face a GDPR breach. These ones are always overlooked, the local area networks. Horrible, horrible things, because it gives a false sense of security. So this is something I want to push for, because I think this is overlooked and this will cost a lot of money. This will bankrupt a few companies who miss this thing, because it's a simple thing, but you tend to miss it. Either only go the data center. Don't have anything outside it that's not encrypted. Use VPNs as soon as you're outside, even if in your office. Why not? We're totally mobile today. We're totally use encrypted transmissions. Make sure that everything outside the data center is encrypted by default. Ever. Always. That's the easy part. So you don't need to mind about this yet. Or you need to lock them up a lot, or you need to do this. So this is the part of the thing that's the biggest message with the GDPR survival guide. Go virtual. GDPR puts a lot of demands on monitoring, logging and reporting. a lot more than you have ever faced before, pretty much, I would think. If you're not a regulated industry, then you're used to this, but otherwise you will face a lot of demands from this one. Logging, monitoring, and reporting are not something you want to do on physical appliances. Because physical appliances requires a physical presence, requires a physical log, requires a lot of work. If you go virtual all the way, you can do this virtually as well. You can automate this. So the rescue of GDPR is actually virtualization. Cloud is not the problem. Cloud is not the threat. Cloud is not the security concern. Cloud is your goddamn savior if you haven't started yet. That's the idea. You need to modernize. But this is great because you take GDPR with you and you tell your company owners and company management that, hey guys, huge fines here can bankrupt us. Let's start modernizing our IT infrastructure. Let's start automating. It's worth it in the long run. Because, well, the main idea, the main basic idea with the GDPR is, well, if you don't start now.
What? She obviously wants to take your relationship to the next level. I don't want the next level. I like this level. Fix it for me. How am I supposed to fix it? Simple. You want a girlfriend. Amy wants to be someone's girlfriend. Take her off my hands. I give you my blessing. That is insane. You're right. It would never work. Amy finds you tedious. Okay, good luck. We need to wait. What am I supposed to do? Have you considered telling her how you feel? I'm a physicist, not a hippie. All right, well, let me see if I can explain your situation using physics. What would you be if you were attached to another object by an inclined plane wrapped helically around an axis? Screwed.
Okay. GDPR, not buying this one, not automating. Yeah, inclined plane, helix axle. That's what you take to your upper management and tell them.